Good morning, and thank you for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be covering Ryan Poles' promise to Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett backing up Jalen Hurts, a man returns from vacation with a letter saying he's deceased, and make sure you stick around for later in the show when we'll be diving into our oddities of the day. Before we start, I'd like to ask that you guys like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. The tips and donation link is GSMCPodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also just really helps the show. Hello, Tate. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. To fill everyone in, before this, I was talking to Faith about being stressed out, everything that's going on. Yesterday, I'm doing my meetings and then power goes out everywhere. And I'm like, holy crap. So I sent Faith a message, not knowing how long power is going to be out, cell tower is out and things like that. And I'm like, Faith, you may be doing the show by yourself.
I was like,
So I stress Faith out as well. So
yeah. Which, I mean,
surprise.
I was already stressed out, so what's new? What's new?
So I made it here, didn't even miss a show.
Yes.
Life is good.
I'm very grateful for that.
Faith was gonna have to talk all sports by herself,
Yeah,
which is something that she's a little nervous about doing.
Yeah.
The sad thing about it is she knows this stuff. She's just a little, nervous about it.
It's easier talking to somebody else. It's sitting here and basically talking to myself about stuff that I'm not fully versed in. That just makes me nervous.
You're not just talking to me, you're talking to everyone.
I know, but
That's part of it. You have a live community out there, friends. These are friends and family.
Friends and family.
And you have more friends and family than most. You have actual family members that listen.
Yeah.
A lot of my family don't even know what I do for a living. I've been doing this for, a decade plus.
Over 10 years, right?
And people are kind of like, what exactly is a podcast? How's that podcast thing?
Basically.
How's that podcast thing you're doing? It's like that little hobby. Like
hobby.
Like I'm in a basement with a glue gun and some yarn, and
gosh.
People do not even remotely. If you're like 50 plus, there's so many 50 plus year olds that have no clue. They think you're in the basement with like a transistor radio and some aluminum foil down there. It still shocks me that people don't understand what a podcast is.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean,
no, it's not. No, it's not. For certain people that are of the older demographic, if it's not television and radio, it's not real.
But it is radio. It's basically radio. It's just on an app.
Like, you don't understand how many people I've had conversations with that are of the older era, and they cannot wrap their head around streaming or podcasts. That's just so foreign to them. Especially when I go back home and I talk to some people that are older, and they still listen to the AM, FM radio, and cable television is kind of new.
Sometimes I still listen to FM radio, so.
Of course. As a matter of fact, I was at GSMC, I was talking to one of the new sales reps, and he's an older gentleman, and he was talking about how long he's been doing this. And he was talking about the challenges of when he was younger, he had to sell FM radio and people didn't understand it. And he had to explain and educate people on FM radio. I'm like, FM radio? Like,
It's in your car. What do you mean?
you got to teach people what FM radio is. I'm like, oh wow, there's like Morse code. Were you doing Morse code smoke signals? What the heck was going on back then? So sorry for anyone that's older. We're not making fun of you, but it's just different when people like. There's so many people that are older. That just don't understand, like, what do you mean you have a show? With like, is that AM or FM? So, all right. Gosh. So, what do you have for us today, Faith?
Alrighty, so Ryan Poles promised to do right by Justin Fields. Ryan Poles promised to do right by Justin Fields this offseason, and it appears that he has made good on that promise. According to Ian Rappaport, the Bears had several offers for Fields this offseason, but sent him to Pittsburgh because that's what Fields preferred. It's no surprise to hear that Fields wanted to join the Steelers to play behind Russell Wilson, assuming he didn't have any opportunities to start. Fields modeled his game after Wilson, so now he'll have the opportunity to learn from Wilson himself. Justin Fields commented, I would say when I was younger, like maybe 8th, 9th grade, it was more Cam Newton, but I would say these past couple of years, I've kind of turned more to a Russell Wilson type quarterback, Fields said right after the Bears drafted him in 2021. I've watched a lot of film on him. I've watched a lot of highlights on him. So I think the things that we can do on the field with both of those quarterbacks, I think we have a lot of similarities between extending plays with our legs and also having the arm talent. So I think those are a couple of guys that I kind of emulate my game after. I've always looked up to him, Fields said about Wilson later in 2021, the kind of person he is on the field and off the field. He's a great quarterback and a great person. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin told Fields that he will begin the year as Wilson's backup, but the Bears will want Fields to take over as the starter at some point next year. According to multiple reports, the 2025 sixth-round draft pick that the Bears received from Pittsburgh will turn into a 2025 fourth-rounder if Fields plays 51% of the Steelers' snaps. Even if Fields spends the whole year as a backup yet this year, there's a chance he rebuilds his image enough to compete for a starting job in 2025. That's what fellow former Bears first-round pick Mitch Trubisky did across the 2021 and 2022 season. After the Bears decided to roll with Fields, Trubisky signed on with the Bills to back up Josh Allen. One season later, the Steelers again made Trubisky their starter. So,
okay, remember yesterday we were talking about this, and already they're saying, hey, we want Russ to be our starter.
Right.
But at some point, we are going to transition to Justin Fields. And that's the reason why I was saying I kind of feel for Russ, because it's already starting to come, it's already the plan. It goes from, hey, Russ, it's going to be our guy, to, oh, we've went out and got Justin Fields.
Right.
At some point, we want to transition to Justin Fields being our quarterback. So the clock is ticking on Russell Wilson. It's already just said right here, just in this article. Now, the main point of this article is the fact that the Bears ownership group wanted to do right by Justin Fields. And that there were a few other, I'm not going to say a lot, there were a few other offers on the table, but they sent him where he wanted to go. I'm saying there's some truth to that, but it's a little, I feel like it could be some revisionist history as well. And here's the reason why. I'm going to tell you this right now. If a team came out and said, hey, we'll give you a late first round or an early second round pick for Justin Fields. And the Bears aren't going around saying, no, 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 he wants to go to Pittsburgh. We're going to take a sixth round pick.
Mm-hmm.
That is not happening. This makes me think that there were some other late round picks, maybe a fifth or something like that, where it wasn't anything major, because this could turn into as much as a fourth. And so if the picks are close, then they're like, hey, let's send him where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it still solidifies for me. There were no first, there were no second, and there were no third round picks that were available for Justin Fields. Maybe a late fourth or something like that. It sounds like also that maybe the Giants kind of kicked the tires on possibly going with Justin Fields as well. Um, Interesting how things worked out. But no, I it does show me that the Bears at least listened to Justin Fields, and that Justin Fields wanted to go and play with Russ. Um, Told me a lot of, one, he admired Cam Newton and modeled
Mm-hmm.
his game early on in the Cam Newton. But then when he got closer to the NFL, when he got to the NFL, he started watching a lot more film on Russ. That's a good move. I would love to see them take the time, let him work with Russ. Maybe Russ can kind of tweak his game, Justin Fields' game a little bit. With how dynamic these two guys are and how athletic Justin Fields is, I would love to see them even work some plays where you could have both of those guys on the field at the same time, or putting in special packages, kind of what some other teams have done. They have a unique situation here where I would love to see them really take advantage of it. And Mike Tomlins is one of those coaches that can get creative and use the weapons that he has. It's a good place for both of those guys. Unfortunately, there can only be one,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that I know, everything that I'm seeing, Russ is on borrowed time. I could also see a situation where Russ gets the first half of the season, because of the fact that in the contract, if Justin Field plays more than half of the team snaps, it goes from a sixth to a fourth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying the timeline is week 9. They play the first 9 weeks with Russell Wilson, and then later on in the season they switch to Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way I feel. At some point, everything in my gut tells me Russ won't finish the season as the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, unless Russ comes in and absolutely balls out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard. It's gonna be hard to ball out on a schedule where you got to play the Ravens twice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play the Browns, who are an incredibly strong team. You're gonna have to play the Cincinnati Bengals twice, who will have Joe Burrow back. You're in a meat grinder of a division where actually you're the worst team in that division,
Mm-hmm.
and Russ will have no room for mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, 2 losses in a row, and everyone is going to want Justin Fields on the field. So that's the reason why I see this as major challenges for
Mm-hmm.
him.
Well, how do you think Justin Fields will do as a starter with the Steelers?
I was kind of talking, I was messaging back and forth with Nelson from the GSMC basketball podcast. And he's not a big believer in Justin Fields, and he does not think that Justin Fields is gonna do well. That he was not a successful quarterback in Chicago, and he really paraphrasing. Not I'm putting words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing what he was saying. We were messaging back and forth that he doesn't. It doesn't sound like he really sees Justin Fields doing well in Pittsburgh either. I'm not to that level. I think he was not in a good situation in Chicago. And being in Pittsburgh, I think it's going to be a better situation where he's going to get every opportunity to succeed. But like I said before, you're in a division where it's incredibly tough. The Ravens could be the best team in the entire AFC, if not the best team in the NFL. The Browns are a top team. The Bengals are a top team. You have three teams that are Super Bowl caliber teams trying to, make the Super Bowl. The Steelers are not on that level. It's going to be tough for either Russ or Justin Field or them both to really shine. It's going to be a tough go, in my opinion.
I'm caught up on the way you say Bengals.
Oh, why is it Bengals? What's wrong with Bengals? All right, how do you say it?
Bengals.
Bengals. I say Bengals, you say Bengals.
Tomato.
I saw you make that little smile you made there. I was like, look at you.
I've never heard someone call them the Bengals. That's
the Cincinnati Bengals. You're like the Cincinnati Bengals.
Bengals.
I'm a Midwest, Northeast Ohio guy, so I guess I say it that way. And
yeah, I'm a Southern girl.
Yes, so I'm fascinating there.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how Justin Fields does under Russell Wilson, and see how Russell Wilson will mentor Justin Fields and see.
I mean, the thing is, Russ is that. People give Russ a hard time, but Russ is a good guy. He's a consummate professional. Even in that horrible situation in Denver, he took the high road. He took the classy route. From everything I see, he has a good relationship with Justin Fields, and he is genuinely happy to work with Justin Fields. You can't ask for a better situation where you have a guy that's going to mentor him. I don't know if sometimes you have to take a little bit of a selfish approach. And I worry that if Russ does not take a selfish approach, it could be a bad thing for the rest of Russ's career. And could really hurt him, because if he does not shine now, they're gonna look at it and say, hey, his last years in Seattle, not so great. He didn't do well in Denver, even though you can say bad situation, but the 2 years in Denver, bad situation. Then he goes to Pittsburgh and he was benched for Justin Fields. That's the way. That's going to be the narrative around Russ, and Russ is going to could easily find himself make a wrong turn into backupville, where he's the number 2 quarterback, not a number 1. And then, if in that case, when you're starting to think about a backup quarterback, if you're drafting a quarterback, you're not going to want a guy like Russell Wilson with a big name to be breathing down the neck of your young quarterback. So you could easily have a situation where he's like Cam Newton, where he's having a hard time finding the landing place.
Right.
So that's the thing that Russ has to really, really watch out for.
Well, hope it works out for him. I feel
That sounds so nice. I hope it's nice and they play well together.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss Kenny Pickett will be backing up Jalen Hurts. So make sure you guys stick around.